All right. Thanks everyone for being patient there. Again, my name is Joshua Collins. I'm with Computers Made Effective, and I want to start by thanking everybody for taking time out of their schedule to join us today. And today we want to focus this webinar really on the hardware requirements for the Dragon Medical Practice Edition 2 software. And we'll have a few tips and tricks and troubleshooting topics along the way. Let's go ahead and get started here. So who is Computers Made Effective? Who are we? Well, we've been in business for about 17 years now, and during that time we've focused strictly on the Dragon Medical software in the healthcare field. We offer everything from the Dragon Medical software, the microphones, digital recorders, anything in the digital digital speech recognition world. We'll be able to handle it for you there. Along with training, tech support, and customization for the software as well. Our goal really here is to provide you with a turnkey solution for the Dragon Medical software. And that's going to include everything: the software, the microphones, the training, technical support. We want to take you from start to finish, be there during the deployment, the EHR deployment if you guys are doing that. And be there live with you when you're going live, and provide troubleshoot and training. So we definitely can offer all that for you. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that today. And our solutions are really designed to fit your needs. Whether you are in the process of deploying your EMR, if you're already live with your EMR, we're going to tailor our deployment, our training, our customizations, all going to be specifically designed for what what part of the equation you're in there. All right, so we'll definitely help you out there anywhere along the way. So let's go ahead and get started with our topic here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the types of computers compatible with the Dragon Medical Practice Edition 2 software. And the ones you see here are really the three most common machines we see Dragon deployed on. So I know everyone is familiar with these machines. It really comes down to, I think, the question of the doctor's workflow. What are they needing to do? Are they needing to dictate in front of the patient in the room? Are they needing to go to a dictation station right outside and dictate? Are they going back to their office? Depending on the scenario, really is going to determine, I think, what machine you're going to end up with. And along with that, obviously you want to make sure that whatever machine you go with does meet the minimum, at least the minimum recommendations for Dragon. That's really what we'll talk about today. We're going to go over those minimum specifications. We're going to talk about what will run Dragon and what won't. Now, you notice you don't see any mobile devices here, no cell phones or anything. There's really not a standalone Dragon app for any kind of mobile device. What they do have is companion devices, apps that will go along with the Dragon Medical software. For instance, you could go on the App Store and download a remote microphone that you could use, along with your Dragon installation on your laptop or your desktop or your tablet. So there's not really anything standalone for the mobile. It's just going to be those companion apps that run along with Dragon. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the minimum, or I shouldn't say the minimum, I should say just the recommended hardware specifications for Dragon. All right, so the big two factors here are really the CPU speed and the memory or the RAM. Those are really going to be your biggest concerns, but we'll go ahead and run through these specs real quick here. So the first thing you want to look for is you want to at least have a 2.4 gigahertz Intel dual-core processor or the equivalent AMD processor. So AMDs, they're fine as long as they're meeting those minimum requirements there of 2.4 gigahertz or more. And you also want to make sure you have this SSE2 instruction set, which is pretty standard. I mean, I really don't think you're going to find one nowadays without that instruction set. So really, that's not too much of a problem. You really want to focus on the CPU itself and the speed. And alongside the CPU, you have the processor cache. You want to have at least 2 megabytes of cache. Anything under that, it's not going to run really. You're going to have at least 2 megabytes or more of processor cache. The free disk space. So this is your hard drive space. Nowadays this really isn't an issue. Really don't run into too many problems nowadays where you're running out of space on your machine, unless you have a tablet maybe with a smaller solid state hard drive. You really won't run into this issue, but you at least want to have a 5 gigabytes or more of space free on that hard drive for the Dragon installation. And as far as the RAM goes, that can depend on the operating system, as you see there. So if you're running Windows XP, you want to have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM or memory. And for Windows Vista, Windows 7, or Windows 8, you want to have at least 4 gigabytes of RAM there. So these are your recommended. But if we wanted to talk about what would be optimal for Dragon, what's going to get the most out of the software, these are the specs we would recommend for you here. So any of the newer Intel i5 or i7 processors are going to work great. Again, you want to have the 2.4 gigahertz as a minimum. But those i5s or i7s, definitely the i7 is going to be your optimal processor there for Dragon. You still want to have the 2 megabytes of cache or more. You still want to have the 5 gigabytes of disk space. Again, a solid state drive is going to give you better performance there versus standard drive, so definitely look out for that. And then as far as the RAM goes, for Windows XP, you want to have at least 4 gigabytes, and then for Windows Vista 7 or 8, you're going to want at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. So that's going to give you really the optimal requirements, and you're really going to need those because you're not only running Dragon, you're running your EMR. You probably have your email open, maybe another third-party application that you're looking up old records with. So all those are running at the same time on your machine. So it really makes a difference to have the optimal machine there for running that. All right, so here we're looking at the supported operating systems with Dragon. So it's pretty much standard here. I mean, anything that's running Windows nowadays, any operating system you're going to pick up is really going to support Dragon. Notice we don't have Windows 10 listed here. And that's because officially the word is from Nuance, the manufacturer. At this time, officially the latest version of Dragon, Dragon Medical Practice Edition 2, is not supported with Windows 10 officially. Although we've tried it here internally, we've heard from other members of the community, and no one's had any issues with Windows 10 and Dragon Medical Practice Edition 2. It does run. It runs fine. So will it run? Yes. Is it officially supported by Nuance? Not yet. So we don't have a word from them on that yet. What's going to be the scenario there? How they're going to handle it? But just know that it will run under Windows 10. As you see, the other ones here are Windows 8, Windows 7, all standard there. You could run 32-bit or 64-bit, except for Windows XP. Windows XP is going to be 32-bit machine only on that one. And then Windows Server, this is new with this version of Dragon. They do officially support Windows Server 2008. You want to make sure you have one of those service packs there. And there is some limitations there, really, as far as bandwidth goes. Each user that's dictating with Dragon is going to use up a certain amount of bandwidth. You want to make sure you have the bandwidth available on your server to handle all your speakers there. All right. So for operating systems, we'll go ahead to the compatible applications. So with Dragon, I like to say that if you can type there's a really good chance that you can dictate there with Dragon. You can kind of think of it that way. Anywhere that you can type on your machine, you have a blinking cursor. You should be able to get in there and dictate. Now, it all comes down to a question of how compatible Dragon may be with that program. If there's any customization that's needed for Dragon to work better with that specific program. And that's something that we definitely touch on during our training. We always go in there and optimize Dragon to work with whatever EMR system you're using or whichever application you want to dictate on with Dragon. So definitely keep that in mind. But these are really the more common, kind of applications that are standard that will support Dragon. So it works great with any of the Office products, Word, Excel, Outlook. It's very integrated with those. You have a lot of voice commands. You can do a lot of navigation, within the programs by voice. So very compatible there, with any of the Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, any kind of web browser as well. Like I said, pretty much any application on your machine that you can type in, you can really use Dragon in there. It just comes down to the customization that you need to make Dragon work optimally in that specific program is really what it comes down to when you're talking about the applications. And that's why the training services can really make a difference with you getting that proper experience that you should with that particular application. So what I want to do here is I just want to quickly show you how to check your computer specifications. So if you're on the fence and you're not sure if your computer currently will run Dragon, or maybe you're out browsing for new computers at Best Buy or wherever you're at, you can't find the sales guy, which you never can, and you just want to go on there and check yourself to see if, let's see if this computer can run Dragon. It's very simple. I'm going to show you how to do it with a Windows 8, 7, or XP machine. And then we're going to transition over in a few minutes and show you on the Windows 10 side. So with Windows XP, 7, Vista, or Windows 8, essentially you're going to go to your Start menu. You're going to look for your My Computer icon. This may say System, it may say Computer, but you're going to want to look for that, and it's kind of standard in the Start menu there. And we're going to right-click on it, and we're going to go here to Properties. And this is going to give you your system information screen here. And really, you can gather everything you need from this screen. At the top, you're going to notice what version of Windows you have. So I have Windows 7 Home Premium, as you can see. And then down here in the middle under the System section, you're going to see your processor, your speed. And I am on a slightly older machine here. As you see, it's just a dual-core processor here. My RAM, 3 gigabytes, and then the system type, whether it's 64-bit or 32-bit. So you will really see everything from this system information screen here. That will tell you if if Dragon's going to work on your machine or not. You'll have all the specs that you need right there. So again, it's just Start menu, and then right-click on the computer. It might say My Computer. Again, it could be different. It might say System, but you'll see it right there. It's going to say Properties. All right, and that's going to give you this screen here. So let me go ahead and close out of here. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to transition over to another one of our Dragon medical trainers here, Matthew Saxman. He's going to take you through checking your Windows 10 machine and go over a little bit about the power mic and a few troubleshooting tips as well. So let me go ahead and switch over here.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh. So when you're using a Windows 10 machine, it's a little bit of a different process than the Windows 8. You're going to want to click on your Windows tab to open up the menu, and then you will left-click on File Explorer, or right-click, and then left-click on Properties. And that will pull up a similar window to what we saw with Josh with the Windows 8. You'll be able to see the edition you're using, as well as all the system specs here. Another common support issue that we face is microphone problems. A lot of people will say that the microphone buttons aren't working, and it's usually a very simple fix. With that, all you do is come down to the bottom right of your screen, and this will work on any of the Windows systems, whether it's 7, 8, or the 10. And you right-click on the speaker, and then left-click on recording devices. Once this window pops up, I have my PowerMic 2 plugged in right now, and you can see that my computer is reading it properly. I have 2 PowerMic 2-NS. If it is not reading it properly, it will come up as USB audio device, And in that case, you'll want to unplug it and try a different USB port until you see it reading this. Now, we would like to thank you for joining us for our webinar series and open up for some questions. If you do have any questions, please just type them into your GoToWebinar dashboard to the right.
All right, thank you, Matt. So we'll go ahead and open it up here for questions like Matthew was saying. So if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to type them in on the GoToWebinar application. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen there. There's a little plus sign next to questions that you can pop out, and there's also a chat window as well. Either one of those will work fine. So we'll just give it a few moments for any questions to roll in here. Okay, so we do have one, and we'll let some others roll in. I'll go ahead and answer this one. Let's see here. Which tablet brand would you recommend, and how well does Dragon Medical work on it? So as far as the tablets go, really, I think the clear-cut answer there, the one that just stands out above everybody else so far, is the Microsoft Surface Pro. I'm pretty sure they're on the Surface Pro 3 right now. Definitely the latest and greatest Microsoft Surface Pro 3 would be what you want. We have many doctors in the field right now that are using Dragon Medical with the Surface Pro. I've used it myself. It does run great. I mean, there's no difference from a standalone machine to the Surface Pro. You really can't notice a difference. The Surface Pro runs a full version of Windows, and that's definitely important because a lot of the tablets do not. You want to make sure your tablet, whatever you're looking for, is going to run the full version of Windows and not a custom operating system or anything along those lines. You'll need a full version of probably Windows 8 on there is what it's gonna have. So it's a great question. And again, the Microsoft Surface Pro 3 is the tablet we would recommend there for Dragon Medical. All right, so we'll see if we have a couple more questions here. All right, we do have another one here. I run a family practice, which is very fast-paced. What type of computer would you recommend my providers use? Again, I think it's going to come down to the workflow of the provider, whether they're going to be in the room with a patient, dictating with the patient. I would say a tablet or a laptop, or even a desktop. If you do have desktops in each exam room, would work better there. But maybe, a mobile laptop to carry around or a tablet. If they're going out to a dictation station, then, definitely a desktop I think would be the best there. Or if they're going back to their office, a desktop. But as far as the brand goes, I mean, any of the big brands out there, HP, Dell, anything along those lines, Toshiba, there's a ton of them. You really are looking for the specs. As long as they're meeting those minimum specs, that's really what you're looking for, just to make sure that that's going to run Dragon and it's going to run it well. All right, and we'll see here. I have another question. How does Dragon work with a virtual machine? So again, virtual machine is something that's not officially supported by Nuance, although it does work. You can run Dragon. Under I've used VMware personally. So VMware, you run it up there. You'll install it on the virtual machine. You'll pass through the USB connection, or which is going to be the microphone. You'll pass it through the virtual machine. There's some settings to handle that. So it does work well, and where we see that a lot is on the Mac side. So for a long time there really wasn't a good solution with Dragon Medical on the Mac. So what we would recommend is we would recommend parallel desktops or a virtual machine where they would run Windows, through the virtual desktop, and that's where we have a lot of experience with it. Definitely works out well there. And as far as the Mac goes, we are going to be doing a full webinar on this in the upcoming months. They do have a Dragon Medical Dictate for Mac software now that really is up to par with the Windows side. I I mean, it works great, definitely just as well as the Windows version. So we are going to be focusing on that in an upcoming webinar. But again, just to answer your question again, just the same as the Windows 10 stance. Not officially supported with virtual machines, but it will work on there. All right, so that's a great question as well. Let's see if we have any more questions. We'll just give it another minute or so here. All right, we have another question here. I purchased my Dragon Medical software elsewhere. Would you be able to provide training and support? Definitely. So we run into this all the time. No matter where you've purchased Dragon from or who you purchased it from, we'll definitely be able to pick you up from wherever you're at and take over as far as training and support is needed. So we do offer a per incident support, or we do offer annual support, which is definitely the better value. So yes, definitely we can provide support and training even if you have purchased Dragon from somewhere besides us. Definitely, we will still help you out there. Just get a hold of us, and we will take care of you. All right, so we'll give it just another minute or so. I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for the questions, but we'll just make sure we don't have anything else coming in here. All right, I think that's going to be it for the questions. So again, we just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their Friday afternoon to join us. Really appreciate everyone's opinion and everybody's views here. Definitely, if you guys have any questions, anything along those lines, you can reach out to us. You see our contact information listed here across the bottom. Any one of those would be a fine solution for you there to contact. And look out for our upcoming webinars as well. We'll have some more newsletters coming out in the upcoming months and weeks to inform you of those. And I want to thank everyone again for joining, and have a great weekend. Take care. We'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.